Well, hello, Internet. It has been a minute, and today we have a topic. I've been doing a variety of things while away from the tubes, learning Polish, gallivanting around the world, doing some odds and ends with my bass playing, learning a lot of music theory. But today's video is not on a topic of music or language or science. It is a practical matter. We have a handle here. What could this handle belong to? Well, let's trace the story. Huh. That's a very strange handle. Look at those angles. Why would things need to be offset like that? Let's continue. Oh, what do we have here? So this is a scythe. I suppose if you're Magus, you can use it to cast dark magic. If you're the Grim Reaper, you can harvest souls. In my case, I think I'm just going to cut some grass. Never figured out the whole magic thing, really. But we need to bring this back to life. I picked it up at a farm auction. It's just left in the corner of a barn, pretty much. And we're going to see if we can do a little restoration project. Let's get to it. You can see the handle's in a bit of a state. We're not really going to focus on that today because, well, mostly because I have exactly one skill point in woodworking. It's not exactly high on my list. We will, however, look at the blade. So looking at the blade here, well, there's not exactly an edge. You can see, yeah, that finger doesn't have a whole lot of holes in it. So we certainly need to do some sharpening, but the good news is the bevel is still there. Hopefully you can see it here. There's a corner, there's a wedge shape, but we're going to need to put a new edge on that for sure. Before that, we'll just clean it up. So get all this mud and rust and gross off of the surface. I'm just going to do that with good old soap and water and a rag. And then to get the corrosion off, we'll have a little bit of steel wool and not do anything complicated at all. But we'll just use that to take all of that junk off. What happens next? We'll see soon. Or maybe not so soon, depending on how many layers of scale I find underneath the mud. Let's get to it. I wanted to show you something I noticed while I was cleaning it up. And then, of course, the sun went behind the one cloud in the sky and was like, I'm just going to park here. And now it finally came back out, so we have a direct light. So if you can see down in there, down in this crevice on the back of the blade, there's a lot of color variation in here. And areas like here, for example, you can see that it's very red. It's quite a contrast from the dark brown color that you see on the rest of the surface of the blade. And so this is an important clue to the chemistry that's happening here as far as what corrosion reactions are happening between the iron and, well, the rest of the periodic table. Down in there, sorry about the shadow, that really rich red color, so distinct from everything else that's happening here. So I leave this as a problem for the material science learners in the audience, or just anyone who's into chemistry. What reaction is happening here? Uh, what interactions could iron be having with other elements that'll give us this kind of rainbow of different colors? There's a lot of different states here. As I've started to clean it up, you can see a little bit of the shiny silvery gray, the actual iron coming through, and then we have this brown or oxide on the surface, and then the really red one down in the crevices. And as a clue, you can think about what kind of corrosion mechanisms involve being down in little secret nooks and crannies as opposed to on the big broad surface of an object. So other than that, cleanup's going pretty well. I've got pretty much all the dirt off. I'm not going to try to polish this. That just seems a little bit silly for an agricultural tool. But I'll get a little bit more of the scale off, and then I think we'll call it good there. As far as this edge, this is the other thing I was noticing with the edge. I was wondering, based on the surface texture, it's so bumpy, right? This could be corrosion. Or then I had a weird moment. I was like, could this be sand cast? Could this be a cast steel scythe? Because the bumpy surface that you're seeing isn't quite what you'd see in a sand mold, but it's not what you'd see in a sand mold. And I'm just like, there's no way this is cast steel. It just has to be corrosion pitting on the surface, right? And so then I came and looked at the edge, and I'm like, oh yeah, for sure. Look at how wavy that edge is. Maybe I'll take it off the grill so you can see it better. There we go. So look at that edge. It's so bumpy. It's so tortuous. Like right there, for example, you see all that chipping. You see all of those little bits and bobs. Right there's another good one where the edge is not straight at all. So this is what makes me think that this was not a casting, besides just the fact that that would be weird. Like, I think it makes a lot more sense for this to be just forged out of, I don't know, maybe like a medium carbon steel. I'm not actually sure about the alloy. And this is something else I was thinking about while I was waiting for the sun to come out from behind its cloud. All right, well, it's somewhere up there. I was thinking about the difference between knowing the answer and knowing how to find the answer. It's like, I don't know what alloy this is made out of, but I know how I'd find out. I could cut it open, I could polish the surface, look at the microstructure, I could take it to the lab, do some X-ray analysis. Figuring out the carbon content would be a little bit tricky. It's always hard to figure out how much carbon is in steels. Okay, well, I think it's time to get back to work, clean up the surface a little bit, and then think about what I'm going to need to do to this edge to get it sharp. The cleanup continues. I noticed a couple things that I thought would be fun to share. One is a question, one is an answer, I suppose. This is part of what's great about doing things slowly is you take the time to notice stuff. So if you look at the edge, and if you look at the shape and the contour of the edge, let's see if you notice something here. I'll back out. You have this curved section, and then the end, the toe, toward the toe, is straight. It's just a straight line right here at the end, and then you have the curved part in the main body. And not knowing anything about scything, is that a functional thing? Is there a reason that you have that straight part on the toe, or was this just a manufacturing consideration? Was it just easier to make it that way for some reason? So that is a question. I suppose I have to do the YouTube thing, right? If anyone knows, leave me something in the comments. But like also, actually though, I would be very interested to learn why that geometric part of the design is happening. It'll certainly make it easier to sharpen. I can figure out how to get the straight part sharp first and then deal with the curvature after. But then the other thing that I noticed is over here. Hopefully I can focus on it. You see those little whiskers? So those are the little remains of my steel wool that I was using for cleaning the crud off of the surface. And there we are. Why is this strange? Well, it's strange. It doesn't surprise me that the steel is ferromagnetic. I mean, most steels are ferromagnetic unless they have a lot of nickel or other things, other alloying elements that give them a face center cubic crystal structure. Like, hey, look, I'm a magnet. Whee! Come on, come on, come on, come on. Okay, great. We did it. So great. It's ferromagnetic. But why would it be magnetized? This is more interesting to me. Not that it can have a magnet stick to it, but that this steel wool fiber, that the metal of the scythe has a stable magnetic. Oh, hello, sun. Oh my goodness. My exposure. Uh, that it has a stable permanent magnetic moment that is enough to be able to attract this steel wool. So that's interesting to me. It doesn't really tell me much about the alloy, except, well, it's not stainless or doesn't have any other exotic stuff or doesn't have any weird retained austenite heat treatment going on to give it a lot of FCC structure. None of that surprises me. but I am surprised that it's been magnetized. And my guess, my hypothesis, I suppose, is that, as I said, this was an auction piece. It was just sitting in the corner of a farm for a very long time. And I wonder if it was just magnetized by the Earth's magnetic field. If it was stable for long enough, even though the Earth's field is quite weak in most places at the surface, if it's just sitting there at a constant position, no change in orientation relative to the surface of the Earth, relative to the angles to the poles, then I suppose it would actually become slightly magnetized in the direction of the magnetic field at the surface of the Earth where it was hanging out until we came along and rescued it. Well, that's my thought. I am going to think about sharpening next. We'll see what happens. Kind of making progress. Kind of. Ooh. So I decided to use my axe sharpening stone. It's got a coarse and then a fine side. But more importantly, it has this bevel so that I can get in there and do things on the curves. Oh man, this is rough going. So there's a lot of corrosion down in here. I've taken off a fair bit of metal at this point. As you can see, we got some shiny, so that's good. There is real steel under there, but the amount of thickness I'm having to take off just to get down to metal. And now also you can see how bad a shape this edge is in. Oh, look at that. Gross. Someone must have been hitting rocks with this thing. So, as much as I would love to do this by hand and just keep going at it with the stone, I've probably been doing it for 30 minutes at this point. I think it is time to set a new bevel on this thing. So, I'm just going to go get on the belt grinder and yeah, we're going to make that happen. Wow, that was so fast with the power of modern technology. Who knew? So, there we go. It's not perfect. The transition, I mean, you can even see where I couldn't quite nail it. The transition from the straight part to the curved part was really challenging to get. I did okay. It's not amazing, but it was surprisingly not too bad to deal with the curved part and getting a fairly consistent bevel on that. Now, I am definitely not a pro bladesmith by any means. I'm just a hobbyist hack, but it's not too bad. You can see I just took off a little bit here as well. Hello, friend. And that was where I really got all of the chipping out of the edge. So I don't know if we'll be able to focus on this quite right, but it's a lot cleaner now. There's a lot less chipping. You can still see a little bit here and there, just a little bitty remains, but it might actually be sharp. And by saying that, I mean, I'm not exactly going to shave with it, but if I just do a little feel test. It is less sharp than a kitchen knife, which is probably how sharp it needs to be. I might need to get in there with some finer whetstones, but it is sharper than a lawnmower blade. So I guess it's time to put this thing back on the handle and see if it does the job. Okay, it's time for the moment of truth. Will it cut? Will it scythe? Let's find out. I did the thing. I did the thing. I did the thing. Hey, are we there? Hey, are we there? Hey, what's that? You see that? That's grass. It's been severed. Where'd the rest of the grass go? Oh my God. All right. So this is quite exciting. I have a bit of work to do, but that's fine. Now, a few points to note here. First, it certainly needs to be sharper. I just did a quick job for a few minutes because I wanted to get out here while it's still sunny, honestly. I felt a few raindrops earlier, and that's a thing. But after I get it sharper, of course, there's a lot of technique to figure out. I have no clue what I'm doing with this thing. I haven't watched any videos or anything. Uh, there's no harm in going in blind and seeing what happens. So that happened. And then the last bit, I'm still wearing my safety glasses. I'm still wearing my safety glasses from the belt sander, but at least you know I'm safe. Okay. Uh, goodness gracious. So technique will have to be figured out. That's fine. Also, the handle is in quite bad shape. I don't know if you saw, but it's very loose, very wobbly. So I'm sure I'm losing some oomph there. And also, this seems to be more of like a bush scythe rather than a grass scythe. So there's going to be inefficiencies there as well. But anyway, we're going to call this a success. I have a lawn to mow. Well, no, I have a scythe to sharpen and then a lawn to mow. Well, I hope you enjoyed this little random day in the life. I will be back with more hopefully soon. See ya.